Breaking news from Sacramento moments ago, the California Democrats in the state legislature unanimously voted for $50 million of your taxpayer money to go to lawyers for criminal illegal immigrants to help them stay in this country and release them back into the community. And they voted themselves legal defense funds in case Trump goes after state and local politicians. Coming up, we have all the gory details and how you can join the fight to take back this state from far left insanity. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state representative representing the Assembly District 75 in the state assembly. We just had a huge afternoon of debate where California Democrat politicians crammed through two really bad bills. And you need to know what went down, and you need to share this with all your friends and family, all your neighbors, because this is an absolute offensive expenditure of your taxpayer money to aid criminals who are here illegally, to keep them in this country so they can be released onto the streets in neighborhoods and continue to commit more crimes, but also to give fancy, expensive taxpayer-funded lawyers to politicians who might be running afoul of federal law enforcement. And we've got the details. So the first bill that was voted on today, $25 million, went to hire lawyers for the state of California to, quote, sue the Trump administration. But that's not all the bill does. It actually says that legal monies can be used to defend state officials, state or local officials. And so I see this when politicians say they're trying to help you. Don't believe them. Most of the time, they're trying to help themselves in some way, shape, or form. And so I offered an amendment on that bill. I said, look, I oppose the bill overall. I don't think we should be suing President Trump. I think what he's trying to do is for the betterment of our state. The policies that he's trying to overturn in California are really bad policies, like banning natural gas appliances or having an open border, sanctuary cities. I love what Trump is doing, and I wish him well, and I think he's going to be successful. That being said, there's something deeper going on here. And I got to the root of it by offering an amendment on the bill saying, okay, you're going to pass this to sue Trump. And those lawsuits, I think, are frivolous and wasteful and going to impede progress. But how about you commit that none of the money in this bill will ever be used to defend a state or local elected politician, either a sheriff or a city council member or a mayor or a state assembly member or the governor or the attorney general, any official who's elected in the state of California, if the federal government charges them with a crime for obstructing justice or impeding an investigation or impeding any federal law enforcement. Now, the Democrats in the state of California say everything they're doing is lawful. But I'm holding a memo here from America First Legal, and it was sent out in December warning state and local politicians in California that if they support sanctuary policies, that they could be, quote, committing a crime to conceal, harbor, or shielding a criminal who's in the crosshairs of federal law enforcement. The memo continues on to say that not only could they face criminal charges, but they could face civil lawsuits if, for example, they shield an illegal immigrant criminal and that criminal goes on to commit a crime that hurts someone. The victims could actually sue the elected official locally or at the state level who contributed to that loss. And so I said, you know what? Let's settle the debate. Don't use any of the money for politicians. Well, that amendment was rejected by the Democrats, and one Democrat stood up in opposition to the amendment saying, yeah, you're damn right. We should get taxpayer-funded attorneys. Oh, thank you for confirming that you are not trying to sue Trump just because you don't like his policies or you're grandstanding. You're wanting lawyers to defend your own rear end from criminal or civil charges because you are acting outside the law. Noted. And I said, look, if we pass this, it should send a message to local officials and state officials. You better be very sure that what you're doing is indeed legal, that you have the legal justification for doing something. Because if not, don't expect the taxpayer to bail out your rear end by hiring you a bunch of fancy lawyers. You get a public defender like anyone else. Oh, boy, we called their bluff. And it revealed that, yes, they're more interested in protecting their own hide than anything else with these bills. The second bill is for legal services. These would go out to a bunch of far left-wing open borders organizations, a bunch of local legal aid societies, legal aid groups. And these are the same groups that are trying to work the system to help illegal immigrants scam and exploit loopholes. The bill also would go to groups that have been known to be organizing these protests that recently shut down all the freeways. Yeah, your taxpayer money helped fund and organize those protests that shut down so many of the freeways over the weekend. But I zeroed in on, and my colleagues zeroed in on the Republican aisle, on an amendment that said none of the legal aid money can be spent on an illegal immigrant who has a felony conviction. If they've committed a felony crime, then they should not receive any taxpayer funding to stay in this country any moment, leave any taxpayer funding to stay in this country any moment longer. And the Democrats said, oh, we're already going to do that, but we're not going to accept the amendment. So what they did was they filed a letter associated with the bill that said, oh, we really don't want this to go to serious criminals, whatever that definition is. I think every felony is pretty damn serious in my book. So they put this letter alongside the bill. So we asked the question, what legal effect does the letter have? Is it part of the law that we're about to pass? The answer is no, it's not part of the law. And no, it has no legal effect. The money will go to aid criminals with felonies so that they can stay in this country. Of course, the Democrats, after rejecting that amendment, basically confirmed that, yes, they do want money to go to criminals. They don't mind that. They tried making it all about regular immigrants, and that is so disrespectful. The idea that, people just trying to come to this country and go through the legal process and standing in line and doing it right somehow should be lumped in with people who've broken the law while they're here illegally. It is so offensive to lump the two together. They're not at all on the same level. And so this bill passed with the funding allowed to go to illegal immigrant criminals. Moments after they did that, they then decided to close the special session, which was supposed to be dealing with wildland fire mitigation. They chose not to pass any mitigation, prevention, or preparedness legislation on the fires, despite the massive catastrophic fires that we just had. All this just went down in the span of 4 hours this afternoon. It shows you just how untethered from reality the Democrat supermajority is in the state of California. In a moment, I want to play my comments because I dropped some truth bombs on the Democrats today in the floor debate. And they're not used to their Republicans standing up and popping them back in the biscuit. But that's what they're going to get every single time, even though they have the votes to vote us down and do the wrong thing and pass bad legislation. It is our duty to give voice to the voiceless, to speak for the forgotten Californian. It is our duty to point out the extremism of their actions and to make it as hard as possible. And that's what I did today. That's what a lot of my colleagues did today. Before I share that clip, and I want you to obviously spread the word with this video. So like and subscribe to this channel to help us spread the word about what happened today. I do want to encourage you, we cannot bring you these stories every day without your help. I can't fight the battle in Sacramento without your help. What I want to do is send out ads and text messages to the Democrats in the most vulnerable districts as to their bad votes today to fund lawyers for themselves to protect themselves, $25 million with the funds on that bill, and $25 million for illegal immigrant criminals. I want voters to know that back home, because it's not like the liberal media will tell them. So I want you to go on the website, reformcalifornia.org. Help us by putting fuel in the tank. Chip in a contribution of any amount right now. Also, sign up to join the movement. We are recruiting candidates, we're training them, we're endorsing them, we're supporting them with our voter guide. We want to break the supermajority in Sacramento, and we believe that with bad policies like the ones they adopted today, with the fact that they did nothing at all to deal with the fires, that they are increasingly showing how separated they are, how untethered they are from the California voter. But we can't do this without you being part of this movement. So go to that website, chip in a contribution at the bottom, put in your first name, your last name, email, phone, and zip code so that you can get updates as to every element of our campaigns. Not only are we supporting candidates, but we are filing ballot measures like the California Voter ID Initiative, and we're going to need your help every step of the way. So be part of the fight. That's how we're going to take back the state. That's how bills, extreme as they are, like these, that's how these bills can be prevented in the future. We may not have the votes to do it today, but we will inflict damage on them at the ballot box, and we will start getting voters riled up in their districts, and that will result in bad bills failing on the assembly floor. I guarantee it. But we need your help to do that. Okay, so here is the clip of my truth bomb that I delivered, speaking truth to power. And of course, my Assembly Democrat colleagues were not happy with what I had to say. Check it out. So here we go again. We're doing one thing, but we really don't want to do it. This body just had an opportunity to vote on an amendment that would formalize in law that we will not use taxpayer funds to defend people who have felony records, felony criminals, and to help keep them in this country and release them back onto our streets, into your communities where they could go out and recommit crimes. You say you're doing something, but you're not. You had a chance to vote on the amendment to actually make it happen. Words are cheap. Actions mean everything. It's the only thing that matters to protect our communities. Actions. And it just dumbfounds me why you wouldn't accept this amendment. Every single Californian should be asking, should be demanding an answer to that question from every single one of you who voted down this amendment. Why did you actually not put it into the force of law by including it in the bill? This is what your weekend has been spent on. This is what the Democrat caucus has been debating and torn apart over. Oh, golly, how do we get around this amendment? What do we do? Well, maybe we'll put a Post-it note on the cover of the bill, which has no effect in law. It will not do one darn thing to keep funding from going to a felony criminal and keeping them in this country. I've heard a lot of gaslighting on the issue of immigration. The false claim that somehow a secure border and deporting criminals from our country to keep our neighborhoods safe, that somehow that is somehow inconsistent with a welcoming, embracing country, a nation of immigrants. No action by the Trump administration, no position by my colleagues on this side of the aisle is meant in any way to undermine our rich heritage as a nation of immigrants. How lucky are we that we get the best and brightest wanting to come to our country from around the world? So many want to come here that we actually don't have the capacity to take everyone who wants to come here every year. That's not a partisan issue, that's just reality. And to say that we want to vet people is not mean-spirited or anti-immigrant. It's logical. It's about putting security first. It's about putting sustainability first. What we are asking today is to protect our neighborhoods from criminals. Sanctuary policies are not victimless policies. They do create victims. And in fact, this body in previous sessions has made it harder for the public to know the immigration status of a felon. Because perhaps we don't want the public to know how many serious violent crimes are actually being committed by people who shouldn't be here in the first place. The least you could do is stop spending taxpayer funds to keep violent criminals in our country. I ask you to reconsider your position on this issue or vote no on the bill. That does it for me. I'm Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California and a California state legislator.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.